So one time I was in auto mechanics in school, and me and my friends always messed around in auto mechanics. We never took anything seriously. And I'm gonna give you guys a little rundown on how the school was kind of like constructed, just the way the classroom was. So our classroom had a big ramp when you walked into the door all the way down into the auto shop. And between this auto shop, there was a second auto shop, but in between them was a computer lab that both of the places, whenever we did some sort of testing, we would go into and do the test on the computer in there. But me and my friends, when we were supposed to be, I don't know, doing work and whatever, we would actually just go up and hide in there. And our teacher would lock the door, and we found ways to get in there. He would think sometimes that he closed the door, but we would put this tiny little piece of paper inside of the lock, so it sounds like it locks, but you can actually just wiggle it back open. So we would just sneak back in there when he wasn't paying attention, working on other cars. So one time, me and like a group of like 6 other people snuck into this classroom, okay? And it's loud. He's working outside on a fucking race car. We had a pretty fast car for a school racing car. It ran like a 9 or 8 or some shit like that, and I'm sure that, you know, there's other cars that are faster than that, but it wasn't that bad. So he's got that thing running loud as shit outside, so we were able to sneak in there real easily. We snuck into this computer lab, and we just did like the dumbest shit in this computer lab. We would just like lounge back in these chairs with the lights off and everything like that, put our feet up on the desks and shit like that, and hide things in there for whenever we went back in there. We would go up there and play Cartoon Wars on the PC and shit. We would fucking have like WWE battles in there. Like my one friend chokeslammed my other friend nearly through the fucking table in the middle of school. I was such a bad kid. We would be suplexing each other onto the chairs and shit. And the one time that we were sitting up there just relaxing, we saw that the teacher was coming up there. Okay, we had 2 different teachers, actually. They were both 2 old men, so they were pretty fucking delirious. Because there were a couple fucking goody goods in that classroom that were just complete fucking assholes who didn't like any of us. So one of the teachers were coming up because we got snitched on. And this guy comes through the door, right? And all of my friends are just sitting there like dumbasses. Me, I had a different plan. I was not about to get caught and get in trouble again. At the time, I had a hoodie on, a whole bunch of dark clothing like I normally have on. That was just a style that I had. I always just had dark clothing on. I had a dark hoodie. I don't know why I always have dark clothing on. It just so happens that all the cool shirts are dark. If there was a hot pink August Burns red shirt, I'd fucking wear it. So with all this dark clothing and my hoodie and everything like that, I basically just slid underneath of the desk, and since it was dark, I just covered myself with my hoodie. I basically just curled up into a little ball, threw my hoodie over my head, and I just laid there as still as I possibly could. All of my friends got in trouble, and this teacher's walking around and everything like that, and he's like, "Is this everybody?" And he looks underneath of the desk, okay? And he's old, so he can't look all the way down. So I guess he just kind of sees me, sort of. And he's like, "All right, come out of there. Come on out." And I just laid there as still as possible. I just basically looked like a pile of clothing, and I just laid there stubbornly. I was like, fuck no, he's not gonna be able to get me. He's not gonna get me. He is not gonna get me. So I just laid there, and he tried to tap me and everything like that, and luckily he tapped on the softest part of my hoodie that was all balled up and everything like that, so it literally felt like, probably to him, like a pile of clothing. So he just leaves the room, and everybody else gets in trouble. He says, "Oh, you're all written up," and everything like that, and then they go and ask, "Where's Jason? Where is Jason?" And the one teacher goes, "Oh, it's probably him hiding under the desk again with all the clothes and shit." So he writes me up anyway. But what I did once they went down there and I was all alone, I started creeping through. I didn't want to stand up because there's like a glass window and everything like that, and if I stood up they could see me if they looked over there. So I crawled. I fucking Mission Impossible my way through all the desks, underneath of all the chairs and everything like that, snuck out the other door. Since there's a classroom here, and the room that I'm in here, I snuck out the opposite door so they couldn't see me. So I snuck out the opposite door and I walked out into the hallway and pretended to get a drink. I took a drink and I walked back into our classroom like I was never even there. And the teacher goes, "Oh, come down here, you're fucking written up, blah, 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 blah." I was like, "What are you talking about? I was going to get a drink." He's like, "I saw you underneath of the desk, I'm gonna write you up." And I was like, "I wasn't there. I promise you I wasn't there." And he wrote me up anyway. So I was pissed off. That was at the end of the day. So the next day I get called into the office. So the administrator is reading this report, just thinking it's just another write-up, just another kid just being a fucking idiot. Which I really was, but she reads off of the report. Jason was hiding underneath of the desk in the computer lab when we told them they were not allowed in the room or some shit like that. He wasn't doing his work, etc, etc. And this is what I told her. I said, "I don't understand why he wrote me up. I was just going to see my guidance counselor, Mr. Spitz." Yes, his name was Mr. Spitz. He was an old guy. He was just really fucking weird, and the funniest thing about his name being Mr. Spitz, he had a lisp too. He said his name like Mr. Spitz. Mr. Spitz. So I told her I wanted to go and see Mr. Spitz, and she said, well, do you have any proof of it? Did you, like, sign in on this paper whenever you go in there to try to look for him? And I said, no, I didn't sign it or anything like that. I was just trying to look for him. I just peeked in and I asked, you know, is Mr. Spitz there, because I wanted to speak to him about my grades. And it sounded like a pretty legitimate story when I told her it. I don't remember completely how I said it, but I basically just said I went in there and I asked for him. And she said, okay, so since you didn't sign in, I can't really tell if you're lying to me or just telling me the truth. But then she says, you know what? If you can go back into that office and they can say that they remember seeing you in there, then I'll let you off the hook. So I was like, oh, fuck, man. I really hope that these ladies just kind of vouch for me in some way, shape, or form. So I walk into that office with the administrator and she was like, yeah, I just wanted to know if this young man came into here yesterday asking for Mr. Spitz. There was two ladies sitting there and the one lady looked and she was like, and the other lady was like, yeah, I actually think I remember seeing him in here. Yeah, he came in here and asked. And I sat there like, oh my fucking god. Like, oh my god, I couldn't have been any more fucking lucky. So she tells the administrator, yeah, I remember seeing him in there. And I just got let off the hook. I walked back into the classroom and my teacher was like, so I hope you learned your lesson with this write-up. And I walked back in and I was like, I didn't get a detention. I don't know what you're talking about. I was never in there. And my teacher just didn't talk to me for the rest of the day. He was so pissed off that I didn't get written up. I played the living shit out of the system.